much for joining us. And this morning we're going to be talking to my friend, but she's also the founder of the MasQ project. Her name is Elungile Mzimba, and she's going to be chatting to us about this project. And it's a project that is changing the lives of many young learners, particularly in the Eastern Cape. My cousin makes the most amazing tea.
Well, what does she put in?
I don't know what she does. There's some people that just know how to make tea. And the trick that does my lashes makes awesome tea. And I asked her, did you put honey in this tea? She said, no, it's sugar. Why does it taste so good? What rooibos is it?
That's yours.
And she uses the same brand of rooibos that I use.
Oh yeah?
But her tea is so yummy. Is that MasQ website going yet? Not yet. It's still working.
No,
it's such a nice website though. It's very nice. Especially the way the pictures change on the front page. That's what we wanted to talk about is MasQ.
Okay. You want us to sit down and have tea?
So we're here with Elungile Mzimba, who happens to be my friend, but also one of the things that she's doing right now that really inspires me and has also been a very inspirational story to many people is a project that she started at MasQ, and she's going to tell us a little bit more about it. But basically what it is that she's working in rural areas, particularly in the Eastern Cape, to resuscitate dreams for young people and for learners in high schools. Thank you so much, Elu, for joining us this morning. I know how busy you are.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for agreeing to do this with us this morning. And I'd like you to just start, first of all, by telling us what MasQ is about. First of all, MasQ is a shortened version of it.
Yes.
Give us the full name.
Yeah, it's very much of what you call it, a tongue user-friendly version of what it is. It's Masiqaqambe, that's what the organization is, which is a closer word meaning, let's outstand, let's be bright, let's outshine, stand out, And when we came up with that name, it was not so much for us as the members of Masiqaqambe. We said we need a name that will speak to the children that we will come across, that we will touch. And we want them to stand out of where they are. To be bright where they are, to do well where they are.
But when did it start? Because I've known you for a really long time. And then when you came to us, especially as your friends, and you said, well guys, this is what I'm thinking about. Yeah. You'd already been thinking about it way before then.
For years. It started when I was in high school, to be honest. When we transferred from, I started schooling in rural schools, in primary school, and living with my grandmother. And when we reached high school, my mother then transferred us to the then Model C schools. And the difference, and soon I realized that there were two things that you just realize as you grow up. One was that obviously there's a huge difference between the two schools, the two schoolings rather.
So this would be the more affluent schools and the rural schools, obviously.
Yes, huge difference. And then, but the saddest one was when I was doing matric, and this old friend from my grandmother's, and she had no clue what she was going to do after matric. Not because she was not going to pass, absolutely no clue, no idea whatsoever. No one was educated in the family, there was no direction. The only dream she had really was to get married and settle down and have babies, and life ends there. Nothing wrong with that, but we know there's more to life than that. So it kind of struck me then, and what was worse is how she was preparing for her exams. I had passed question papers. I had been to career expos and all these things, and with her, all she had was these question papers with very bad English grammar on them, written by teachers who obviously couldn't really string sentences properly. But you could see there was just too much of a difference, and we were both going to write the same examination. Surely something was wrong with that. So I took note of it, and I thought, somebody needs to do something here. And the other notable thing that I picked up is that I dreamt differently. In my family, we're not rich, it's a bunch of middle class trying to make it people. But it was a mix of police and nurses and clerks, but we had quite a few graduations and grad parties that kept me dreaming. And so I dreamt differently than other kids.
And you talk about this because I want to talk about the dreams, because that really is what you were talking about and what you were trying to articulate when you started is, I remember it, we're all sitting in and you said, guys, I just want to go back home and help these kids dream and just tell them that their dreams are important. And another thing that you said was that some of these kids don't even dream because you just feel like, even if I do dream, how am I ever going to get out of the situation that I'm in? That's not even attainable for me to be more than where I am.
Because it looks impossible. It's like, I say, how do you dream of something you've never even seen or heard of? I mean, is that possible? You can, if you really are a special person, you might dream, obviously, that there's got to be more to life than this. But that has to be supported. So how do you dream of something you've never even heard of, you've never even seen? There's no role model, there's nobody around you that has ever been this thing. So you can't dream it.
For some people, they know what a rural school is, and for some people, I think we've got an idea kind of what a rural is, but you don't really know. What are these schools like? What is going on there that when you talk about it's difficult for these kids to even dream?
The biggest deficiency, as I would call it, is lack of information. Inability to access information. One of the schools that we've adopted, give you a picture, they are so far from civilization, hey? They are so far. They've got, in that little location that where they live, they've got 2 bakkies that are apparently their transportation. They leave early in the morning, before 6 or something like that. If you miss them, you're never going to make it to town that day. And they come back somewhere after 6 in the evening. So if you miss them, you're not coming home that day.
The 2 bakkies.
Those 2 vans.
Okay.
And when I saw one of them, I was like, oh Lord, is it still driving? You know?
Yeah.
But that's their transportation. You need horses. You get to town and it is so dry. The most civilized thing you see is a couple of garages and the police station.
But you were saying that the reason that you need horses there is because a car is not going to be able to
No,
access
small
those
cars
roads.
can't. Small cars can't get there. If it rains, the river closes up. There's no school. If it rains, school closes down. They've got the few classes, but they are very neat people. That I appreciate about them. What they have, they take care of. But they've got these 6, I think, classrooms that they have, and that's where you feed the whole high school. And they take tents to take classes. When the science class is running, the geography crew has to wait outside, and they take tents. So it's that remote. That is how far it is. And the dreams there are like, when we went there for the first time, one of the mothers said to me, my own child told me before she would even have a baby, she said, Mama, I'm far behind. Girls my age have babies. I'm behind. I don't even have one. How will these young men see me as a marriage suit if I don't have a child?
So in these areas, for some of the girls, having a child and getting married, that's the epitome.
It's a way
of
of survival. It's a way of survival because they get to have the access to the child grant as well. When there's 0 income in the house, that money looks like lotto. So they actually, some of them make babies so that they can have access to that money.
And how real is that? Because I think people hear that whole child grant story, that some young people especially, are having children so that they can get that. How real is it? Because some people think, oh, that can't possibly be happening.
Oh, you'll be surprised. It's as real as you can. It's like, it's a way of, both schools have the same problem. They have the same problem. The schools that we've adopted so far both had the same problem. And so many of those teenagers are mothers already. So in my view, when I talk to them, I'm like, now listen here, girls, that means you're running out of time because you've got somebody chasing you. So you need to start thinking that if your baby now is 1 year old, you've got maximum 4 years to make it work. Because that kid in 4 years' time needs school fees and school uniform and that type of thing. So you better use that opportunity. Do whatever you need to do, but you better get some profession and a salary by your side. Because you've got about 4 years to go, and that's it.
So you start this organization Tell us about the first time that you went to the school, and this ties in with the previous question where I cut you off because I wanted you to give us a picture of where these schools are. But the first time you go there, what does your project do?
All right. Before we went, the first thing that we asked for, because initially we were just going to go motivate and get out, and then as we were discussing it, you'll recall, then we said, but then what happens after that? We motivate them and we leave them motivated, and then? So then we said, okay, let's find out what do they need. What are the things that they need to actually finish up high school, to finish up grade 12, to make better? Then we said, do they have textbooks? So do they have scientific calculators? Because those are very expensive for rural grandmas who also live on grant. Then we called up the school, and the school gave us this list. It's amazing how the textbooks were just not there. More than half the class didn't have a textbook. And what to me stood out was that everywhere you go, we're making noise about we've got scarce skills in science and math, but we're not even enabling our children to be able to acquire such skills.
And you were saying that a lot of them were dropping out of subjects like accounting, subjects like math, because they didn't have calculators.
They don't have. They think they're difficult. They think they're too difficult. But when you find out what is the real issue here, they cannot even afford these calculators. They can afford scientific calculators. The one school that we started with, in grade 12, they had, I think it was about 30 pupils. It was 25 pupils. Only 5 of those had scientific calculators. Now, anybody who does maths or has done math before will tell you, you cannot in matric afford not to have scientific calculator. You will never, your trigonometry is gone already. Gone. That whole, which used to be about 30% of the paper in my time. That part, forget about it, you've got 0. Your geometry, you might have your geometry set, maybe you'll dabble there. You'll probably get your 10% because it links to trigonometry and calculus. So pretty much half the paper is gone from you if you do not have a scientific calculator. This is now even before you get going. Let alone the thought of, if you are that teacher, can you imagine how much work will you cover? If you're that teacher who's supposed to teach a grade 12 class of 25 with only 5 scientific calculators, how long does it take to figure out what is time 30? Do you get what I mean? So most likely, you don't even cover what you're supposed to cover as a syllabus.
This goes, and this also, I would imagine how despondent the children are, but also as a teacher, that's a really tough environment.
They were so discouraged because no matter what you try, at some point somebody has to enable you. You might have dreamt to make a difference as a teacher, but if you're not enabled, if the environment is not enabling, then you'll always be judged unfairly. Because all these factors that I'm putting before you, they discount the marks even before you go. So by the time these kids go to the exam paper, I can tell you now, 50% guaranteed is gone. So they have to see how they figure out the rest of the other 50%. So all I'm saying is there were lack of resources. There were no textbooks. There were a couple of textbooks there and there, but they were not equating to the number of kids that were in matric. So we decided to focus in matrics because, we're clubbing out of our own pockets, as you know it, and we gather there and there from different friends and colleagues, and that is not much, So when we clubbed together, we managed to be able to sponsor that school properly. And what is even stranger is that this particular school we started with has had a lot of sponsorships, but all these sponsorships...
Can you say what the school's name is?
I can say it. I don't think it's in Masiqaqambe High School. It's a very neat, tidy school, well built, well sponsored with anything and everything else except what they need to actually pass in class.
You were saying they've got tennis courts, beautiful state-of-the-art.
Somebody went and put up a tennis court there, and I'm thinking, a tennis racket is about 500 rands. They can't even afford a scientific calculator. They don't have textbook. Some come to school unfed. They haven't eaten. So
So what's happening with these sponsors? Are they just going there and saying, well, we will put up a tennis court? Are they not asking what the school needs?
I did ask that question, and I was told, you know what? I was told the principal said to me, we accept whatever we're given because we don't really have a choice in terms of what we get given. So we happy with the sponsorships, but no, we never have the choice exactly. So the difference with Masiqaqambe is that we got to say what we need, and you met that need, and regardless to needless to say, the outcome was beyond.
I want to ask you about that
Beyond
because
my
I
expectations.
think when we talk about what they don't have, and MasQ goes in with the help of your friends, with the help of some family. I know some family sponsored, one of the prizes that you gave to the top students, which was a computer. But I want to talk about meeting that need and the difference that it made. The motivating, but like you said, not just motivating, but saying, what do you need? We're going to help you pass this year. What were the results of that?
The one school when we went, they were, the previous year they had a 48% pass rate, which was not particularly highly rated in terms of quality. I think they were somewhere number 19 in the district, or how much, what was it? I think they were somewhere, I don't know what number they were not number 19, but they were somewhere, I don't know, at the bottom list of the district. And we came with the schools, we talked to the kids, we created a vision in their lives, in their minds, that listen, you can do this thing. What do you want to be? We made the information accessible. We have a mentorship team. We make this info. They send us please call me's, and we guide them. And we call them back and we guide them in terms of career choices, in terms of who they want to be, in terms of where can they get the information. We print and we post information for them. And then all these dreams came up.
But before even the mentoring, I want to go back to this. You go there, and I think one of the things that you said was just telling your own story. That this is where you come from. You coming from where they came from, and you've moved to Gauteng. You're an engineer now. You're studying your MBA. So many achievements that you've made, and being able to say to them, "I came from here. This is where I'm from as well, and this is what I've done with my life. You can do the same."
Yeah, and they totally relate when you tell a story from that angle. Because as you know, it's more like, who are you to come and tell us? We've been here for years and there's been no difference. But when you tell it from that angle of, listen, there are many of us who come from rural areas, and now we live off our own salaries. We live not hungry anymore. And instead, it's a question of what else more do you want? We might not be wealthy, but we know where we come from. So when we share those stories with them as a team. We've got a few members in the team that have written up their stories, and we share them with these kids. And then we say, what do you want to be? What did you dream of becoming? And we take it from there. We say, why do you want to do that? What do you really like? But we had this particular girl who kept on saying to me she wants to be a medical doctor, another respected career, nothing against it. But as we conversed, I asked her over the phone, I was like, oh really, so what do you actually like to? She says, to be very honest with you, Sis Elu, I am so interested in geology. I said, oh really? She says, but I don't know if it's something that I can make a living out of, or I can. I'm like, you have no idea, do you?
What a kind of living you can make from it.
I said to you, do you understand what's geology? She says, yeah, I'm really interested in it. I'm always curious about, land formations, rocks, and what causes different types of rocks, and where do you find them? How come, He says, that makes me more curious than the medicine, but I want to be a doctor. I want to be Dr. So-and-so.
And doesn't know that you can be Dr. So-and-so and be a geologist.
She didn't know. She had no clue. I said to her, do you know that you can be Dr. So-and-so in geology?
Yes.
She said, really? I said, yes. You can be doctor in almost anything as long as you take the time to study up until you get PhD. Do you understand PhD? Not exactly. Can you explain it to me? Do you see how plain this information and easily understood in the city schools? And village kids don't understand that. They think the minute they see the DR before your name, it has to be medicine.
So you go in there, you tell them your story, you motivate them. And I think for me what was interesting when you came back, when you reported back the first time that you went to the Eastern Cape and one of the schools, it was IHS, and you said that there were kids, and as you were telling your story, who were just weeping.
Yeah, because I remember very well. That was a touching moment because I get quite emotional about this. It's passion. So I got to that point whereby I found myself saying to them, you know, even if they've given up on you, we have not given up on you. Even if you're coming from a shack and you have not even eaten today, there's hope. You can get out of there. Even if your mom is a known drunkard of this location, believe me, God does not clone your mom in you. You're different. Doesn't mean you're going to be the same. Then I started seeing tears and some girls and some boys started looking down. And you could see that they know what I'm talking about. And from there, you know, I am proud to say those kids, they all made it in my eyes. All of them made it out of grade 12. The only kids that didn't make it, I wouldn't say they didn't make it, they had supplementaries. Not one kid was an outright failure, not even one. All those that stayed for the exam, they're not in the school anymore.
And only because you went in there and you told them their dreams mattered and they could actually go back to dreaming.
They could. So many of them are at universities now. Mm-hmm. You know, the top student is at the University of Forte. She's doing a BSc there now. And, you know, it's become, it's like life is possible. Mm-hmm. It is possible to get out of there. It is possible to make something out of yourself. Mm-hmm. You know?
I want to ask you about Mente, which is the second school that you adopted. They heard what had happened at IHS, because you talked about, let's go back to IHS, because you said IHS had a 48% pass rate. That was the previous year. After MasQ went there, you motivated the kids, you gave them the resources they needed, you mentored them after that, but you know, you had mentors for the students when they called. What was the result of that in terms of the pass rate?
The pass, they all passed, like I said. The only ones that didn't make it are the ones that got supplementary exams, but they have a chance. It's not like outright failure. Mm-hmm. The school shot up in quality. The principal was ecstatic over the phone. He was saying to me, Elu, it's amazing. It's not just a pass. Some of them have got A's in some subjects. It's the teachers are motivated. The kids have done so well. The school has shot up in position. They're now in the top 20 in the district, which is something that was before almost unattainable. They had a 76% pass rate in terms of the pure passing, and then the rest just had a supplementary. I said, do you have anyone who has failed? There's no, they all have supplementaries.
And this is just from being motivated. Oh,
just that.
What you did was, I remember the setup. The setup was that there was somebody to speak to students, there's somebody to speak to the parents, there was somebody to speak to the teachers. And all of these have to work together, obviously, and you know, for these kids to be able to do much better. So for the teachers, what was the message to the teachers when you went?
It was really just a motivation in terms of how important they are, the important role they play. Because they always get the flag, you know, everybody says these teachers, you know. But we just said, sit with them. We had an elderly lady when we said, just sit with them and listen to them. Just listen to what they've got to say. And if there's anything we can do something about, we'll see what we can do. We've got limited resources, but just listen to them. That's what we asked that lady, so just listen. And they listed these problems, which, funny enough, the problems that the teachers listed were about the kids. They were not necessarily about themselves. They said, we've got a problem. The kids are so, you know, because I'll put it bluntly, they are so sexually active that it's becoming an issue, because when it's time to go to the clinic for that prevention day or that preventive pill, they are gone. A few are gone. When it's grant payment day, they've got kids, they are gone, not in the class. There's extreme absenteeism from class without real reason. And we're supposed to make it work. Some of them are into Dacha already. So you're teaching a half-high kid So it's difficult. But, you know, I would like to commend them in that particular school. They caught the wave, they caught the vision, and they ran with it. Do you know that in that June, that year, during the June holidays, the teachers stayed 2 more weeks unpaid, 2 more weeks in class, just going through all the study guides and the exam papers we had left them with the kids. They caught the vision and ran with it. So the results were more than deserved, both to the kids, to the parents, to the teachers, and the outcome was just
I
fantastic.
talk about the parents because I think they're overwhelmed because these are their children, and you were talking about taking them out of that environment there's so much pressure where you've got a girl who doesn't have a child saying, I'm behind, there's something wrong with me, all my friends have got kids, and how wrong that picture is, and the parents are having to deal with that. What was the message to them?
The message to the parents, honestly, was from a point of affordability and possibility. Because I actually used my mother for that. Because, you know, my mother educated herself from Norway. And her father, who was a typical rural man, but I don't know how that man thought, but he went against the influence of his clan brothers and cousins, who were saying, what's wrong with Dunga? Why is he wasting so much money on girls? He only had girls. They were like, how do you sell cows to educate girls? My grandfather sold his cows to be able to educate his children. And you know what it's like in Africa. They were like, he's wasteful. You know, and those are the girls who built him a home afterwards. So the communication to the parents was from a point of, listen here, do not say you've got nothing. Yes, there are government grants, and there are other possibilities and avenues, but none of them are guaranteed. We're just making the information accessible. Apply, be there. But when that does not happen, it's not the end of the world. I was saying in this particular location in Masiqaqambe, like these people, they've got horses all over the place. Now, do you people know how much is a horse? A horse can put a child into university the first year. So you just need to get them in. And I'm telling you, our universities are set up in a manner that you will not quit because you don't have money. There's always a way that the university will make a plan if you're a committed student. But you need to get in and show commitment. So we said, just get them in. I don't care. Sell a cow, sell a bull, sell chicken, sell a horse, you know?
Yeah.
And you'll be able to put your kids through.
And I think what was encouraging and continues to be encouraging is how involved the parents have gotten and how they were there. You know, they were there and they came. You were talking about one dad that you had seen, you know, and came the previous year, came again, you know, to come and to support their kids. And I think, and the reason I highlight this is because when we hear these stories of what's happening in underprivileged schools, people think the teachers don't care, the parents don't care, and it's such a different picture to what you've come back and told us is actually happening there.
No, the teachers care. Believe me, they care so much. If you sit and you listen to them, you actually get the sense of, Ellie, we just don't know what to do anymore. They don't listen to us. Maybe because you guys are younger, they will make the time to listen to you. And they can see you've come from here. You know, in the last event we had, you know, we went with Lundi. Lundi is a rural boy, and he's also an engineer at General Motors. So to them, when he told them, listen, I used to follow cows too. I used to look after my father's cows and be somewhere in the wild there like you. And he was now looking at them in his suit, and they were like, you can see their eyes, really? You? Who came with that 4x4?
Was also taking care of cows like us.
Yes,
Yeah.
and you can see because it's they can't think of it, they can't picture it, you know. And from there, they relate, and then they've got more questions in between because they're like, but then how do you do this? How do you get there? What do you do? I mean, there's hard work in this thing. It's determination. You've got to pursue it. It's like we say, we want them to dream beyond their surroundings, that there's more to life than this. You can achieve any dream. You can be anything you want to be in this life if you're prepared to pursue it. You know, you just have to be determined. And one of our messages is that, listen here, when you've got a vision in this life, there are certain things you will not get involved with. If you want to be a lawyer, we're not going to be bailing you out of jail every now and then, because you know that if you're going to hang out with that crowd, your career, your vision is in jeopardy. You will never be the lawyer you want to be. And they don't know those things. That if they can't just collect criminal records, stealing chickens everywhere, and think that they're going to be lawyers one day. Do you get what I mean? There are things that you just don't get involved with.
And one of those things I would imagine is all the sexual activity that you were talking about.
Yes.
And we said to them, listen here, you get 5 rand airtime from this boy from down the road, and he SMSs you with incorrect spelling, and you actually show up in the middle of the night. The next thing you know, you're the mother, he's gone to the next girl for 5 rand and bad spelling. Surely that's not a plan. You know, obviously the girls laugh about it, but the parents are like, tell them. And you see some of the boys kind of going down in their chairs because you can see the guilt.
But you can see it's a culture that they've created amongst themselves. It's rural areas, but things are not the same, you know. They try to impress each other by these destructive ways.
And it'll be interesting because now I want to talk about Mente, because after the IHA's pass rate and the success there, Mente, the other school that you adopted, heard about this, called you there, and it seems to me as though for you, your heart has really just been won by Mente. What is it about that school that has just really stolen your heart like that?
Yes, you know, they are the ones who are in a much dire setup, as I explained earlier. You know, no transportation, no access to town, not even a post box, you know, nothing. It's difficult to get there. But when we were called, this was the information. Hey, you know, if this thing of yours works, we will see in Mente. Said, okay, what's going on there? Then they said, no, the year before, they did have some kids who passed, 3 of them.
Out of how many?
I don't know, but 3 kids made it out of matric. For some reason, they just don't get to matric, a lot of them. At the moment, the school says there was about 56 that had registered when the year started. When we were called, they were quitting left, right, and center, and there was 36 left. The teachers were like, we don't even know if these ones who are here, how many of them will actually get to write at the end of the year. And more than that, when we investigated a bit further, where's the principal if you're not the principal? No, the principal apparently had up and left. Eventually, he also, or she, I can't remember if it was a he or she, but he had quit. So there was this holding person who was not even a deputy or anything without title, who was just trying to keep it together to the exam point. And we spoke to them. I mean, we spoke the whole day. We just spent it talking and sharing and questioning and answering and saying, why, what's this? It was a different setup, it was a different kind of conversation. And what came out
What made it so different to IHS?
IHS has got a bit of exposure because they can, every now and then, they'll show up at Forte. Their problems, besides lack of resources, was also attitude, really. They could have made something, the kids. They just needed role models and reason to believe that, listen, I can be.
In Mente, there was no access of information. There were no fancy anything whatsoever. I mean,
resources.
There's no electricity, there's no running water, there's no, I don't know, there's nothing. There's the building there and very lovely people who are friendly, but with no vision to be anything else beyond, just being a Mentarian, I don't know. So we sat and it was difficult from a point of, you could see the parents. What I appreciated about Mente was that a lot of the parents that showed up were actually illiterate. And a lot of them, on that day apparently, they were supposed to go and collect their grant money. But they said they will start at school first and then go and queue. And I don't know how, you could see what I enjoyed about Mente was the thirst from the parents, the engagement from the parents, who were saying, we want these kids to be something, we just don't know, And you could see some of them will have cornrows and all these things. And I said, parents, how much does it cost for you to do that thing? Is it not 150 rands? They said,
get your hair done.
Yeah, I said, it's 150. I showed them a scientific, I said, do you know what this is? They were like, no, what is it? So it's a calculator. This thing costs about 120, the one I've got in front of you. This is what they need, not the cornrows. You buy this thing once, it will last for years to come. Then you can do their cornrows afterwards, you know. So it's really, really just lack of knowledge. And it was in the middle of September. I remember my brother asked them, who of you has applied for anything whatsoever?
And here in South Africa, and why it's important is when you talk about middle of September, because in South Africa, most universities and colleges and all of that, September 30th is closing day to get applications.
Yes, and those are for late applicants already. September is closure for late applications. Not even one kid had applied for anything whatsoever. I don't care what it is. Nothing.
And we're already mid-September.
We're in the middle of September. And we said, okay, not one. And then somebody said, one of the primary school principals, there was somebody whom we gave money to apply here. Didn't that one apply? That somebody never showed up. All I'm saying is there was no hope at all. All those kids sat for the final examination, the whole 36 of them. And out of that 36, 35 passed, including supplementaries. They even got a bachelor's, which is like an exemption in our time. They had never thought they would have a kid who gets a bachelor examination, an exemption, you know. They had the top student got a bachelor's. I remember, because you remember we wanted to pay their registration from MasQ funds. And we were trying to we couldn't even get hold of him. I think he was somewhere still in the bushes with the initiation and so forth, with absolutely no thought, obviously from the family, that this kid is going to be at university this year. We had to encourage him and tell him, listen, rush to 410 now. Go there and queue up in line. They had to do things quicker. I think his initiation had to happen fast and all sorts of things. Now go check there. And when he couldn't go through there, he couldn't make it in there. Eventually, he got accepted in Walter Sisulu University in Mthatha. He's now there doing his BSOC SC. Somebody who didn't even think.
What is a BSOC SC?
It's a Bachelor in Social Science.
You see, some of us need to ask these questions.
And he told me that he wants to major in criminology, so which means he probably is going to push it towards the law side.
And these are, I mean, all of these professions and these careers and the routes that they're taking now, the paths that they're taking, it seems as though they wouldn't have had it not been for MasQ going there and telling them this actually does exist.
You know, somebody had to go. They didn't know. Somebody would have had to go and tell them something about something.
So now our project, the particular project that we're doing right now, and where this conversation is going to fall under, is about dreaming big. And obviously with these children, they're able to dream again. But for you, I remember when you started, you were just like, well, I don't know, guys, this is what I want to do. How are we going to make it happen? You didn't have money. I can say this, you're a single mom, you've got 2 kids, and all of these pressures, and yet you've been able to do this, and it's you are living a dream that you had years and years and years ago. What is that like for you?
It's overwhelming. We still don't have much money, but it's just, you just have to have faith. I think if God gives you something, He nags you about it until you do something. And once you start doing something, then He provides. And that's the only way I can explain what has happened. We got gifts from the least expected people to be able to make it possible. That's far, you know? And we can only expect that something is going to happen. And when we do, we scout for sponsorships there and there, but that's what it is. You just act, and from there on you have faith that God will make a plan, and He really has done it so far. It's amazing. I told you when I started, I had no clue what was it. Now it's overwhelming, because on the one hand, the last visit, especially when I went to Mente, it touched my heart. The amount of hope they've got on us, on Masiqaqambe. The amount of faith they have on us. It's like, you imagine if you have just a whole village putting their hope in you when you arrive, and they see you, it's like almost they see salvation out of here. And it's because, remember, with them, the 3 had passed the year before, and the next thing, it improves to, on record, 67% pass rate, but with the supplementary students. to them it was unbelievable because they moved from 5% pass rate to 67. So the amount of hope they have on MasQ, they've got double intake this year. The kids, I asked, where do all these kids come from? They said to me, the kids that had quit before, they saw that, hey, others have passed. They've come back. The kids from other schools, they walk for kilometers and kilometers because they had kids are passing in Menje. They want to be part of this. And the kids that were there the year before, they have not left, the ones who were in grade 11. Because it's possible now. Now it's possible.
Wow. When I hear you say this, I mean, for these kids, obviously their lives are changing. And what is amazing, and I say this about African culture, is that just one person needs to succeed, and we just have a way of making that pass down in our family. That one person gets educated, the chance for another person to be educated is just so much bigger. So when you talk about one child seeing that salvation and getting that, it means salvation for the whole family, really. But what I want to talk about is, what has it meant for you personally? Because I talk a lot about us living a life that is full of passion, about us as individuals chasing our dreams, because as it's shown with you, it impacts so many lives. But what does it do for you seeing this and saying, I started this? And it's not about getting a big hit, but I started this, and I'm the agent that's creating all this change.
I've never thought of it that way. Very honestly, I haven't. Maybe because I'm aware of what still needs to be done. To me, we're still right at the beginning, and I find myself fearing sometimes. I really got touched with the last visit at Mente. Too many people, it's scary, Hannah, it's scary. I feel like too many people have their hope in me. Who am I? Oh God, what have I done?
What have I started?
Yes. It's like you don't want to show it because it's almost like you cannot afford to be, not to be confident, because it's like we're looking at you, we're looking up to you. Our hope is in you. It's scary in a sense that God help me not to fail them. Help me not to fail them. That's my wish, that God help me not to fail them.
The last conversation we had, now when I say to you, I really want us to have this conversation and for us to be able to record it and be able to share this with other people. And you said to me, Hannah, we cannot fail them. Whatever happens, we cannot afford to fail them. What does that mean for you when you're saying that?
We have to help them to make it happen. That's what it means. We have to do whatever we can. Whoever you know, whoever you can touch, whoever can be touched, to just help them to make it happen, because we're not carrying them. They are willing to do the work. They are willing to do their part. That's the conversations that we have with them, that you do your part. We'll just hold your hand.
I'm trying not to cry here because it's very emotional, and I can see you very emotional about it.
I'm very passionate about somebody who's prepared to work and get out of where they are. I'm not at all impressed by people that say, we're waiting for government to come bring us this and that. I just love it when people are willing to work hard and do their part.
I want to ask you about that. And again, I'm trying not to cry because this is really, because I know the background story. I know where you are. I know how these children's lives are changing. I want to ask you, because sometimes when I've heard people say, it's very important for us as citizens of this country to not do government's job, because that's why we pay tax. It's for government to buy the textbooks and the calculators and all of that.
Yeah.
What is your response to people that say that?
You know what? How old is this government? Who is government? Is it robots that we can program? We put money in there, something comes out. It's made out of people. A whole lot of people with flaws. Whilst we're waiting for government to form themselves into something we can actually totally rely on, how much work needs to be done out there? What happens to the kids who are still there in the system? Do we wait for them? Where will they be? Listen here, if I don't do anything, I have this philosophy. If you don't do anything in South Africa, you have no right to complain, in my view. If you don't do anything to fix it, then shut up. Because that kid is going to grow up. Just because we turn a blind eye doesn't mean they stop growing. They grow up at some point, they're human, they will need to survive. If you've got absolutely no resources and nothing else and you need to eat, where are you going to get that food from? You'll make a plan. That plan could be me at the robots. That plan could just be my car at some robot in the middle of the night. All I'm saying is, whilst we're waiting for governments to get their act together, and it's not one person, so we can't stand somewhere and reprimand you, government. While we're waiting for them, there's a whole lot of population that is coming up. And they're going to be something, good or bad, they're going to be something one day. And we'll have to live with whatever that something is. So it's good that you pay your tax, I say. But just keep in mind, you've got a few people that you live with around you. You don't have to feel guilty about it, but hey, you know what? If you don't do anything about it, good luck. Not saying that I'm immune, but all I'm saying, if we all do something, anything, we just make an effort. Forget that government. They have many more years. They've got so much work to be done, and it's their duty. But we can't reprimand them. It's not one person. We can't call them to order as such,
I want to talk a little bit about where you're going now, because so much, I can't believe how much you've been able to achieve, because we're talking about this organization like it's been around for decades and decades, but it's like you said, you've just started, the results are there. That is undeniable. And this is one of the things I was saying to you, is that you're not just saying, well, you know what, this is what we're planning to do. You've done it. Children are passing, teachers are motivated, parents are motivated, these kids are dreaming again and they're motivated, they're doing much more with their lives. Where now? Where do you go now?
Hopefully, we'll be able to adopt more schools in future. As the resources improve, we're trying to register with the NPO office, and hopefully we'll be able to improve our bank balance. And as we improve, I would like us to adopt at least one more school every year, and obviously form a bigger team, because one person can't just do this alone, and just bigger teams of motivation, because we take time off from work. It's not a full-time job that we're doing, even though it's very demanding. So my vision is that we continue, that we don't quit, that we keep going. I'm surrounded by some serious engines here. I know you're like Elu, but as you know it, you're one of those engines, one of those pistons that fire and make fire every now and then. So, and we've got others, team members, who are like keeping this thing going, and they might not have a lot of time, but with the time they have, they're like, Elu, where are we now? What do you need? What can I do?
And I think that what you're saying there is important when you talk. It's your dream, it's your vision, but friends of yours that have seen that and that know this is what I can do. Because I remember when you were pregnant and there was a trip that you weren't able to make to the Eastern Cape, and still that trip happened, even though you weren't able to physically go yourself.
Yes, that's exactly where I would like this to be, where I'd like it to go. It happened and it was excellent, and it went very well because people have bought into the vision. So my dream now is to get more and more people who will buy into the vision, and we make it happen together. Because the more people who buys into the vision and make it happen together, the more impact we will be able to make. Right now, we're still a drop in the ocean.
We are not two schools. Huge changes have happened in those two schools. The organization is not even a year. If you think of when you started it, it's still very young, but still you've had.
We finished a year, by the way.
We finished a year, but it's been so much change has happened in that short amount of time, and your focus is the Eastern Cape.
Yeah.
And I would imagine it's because that's where you come from.
Yes, primarily true. But secondly, it's because of, if you look at the economic stats in South Africa, the poorest of the provinces is said to be Eastern Cape. The least in terms of matric results, it's always the Eastern Cape somewhere at the bottom. You name it, in terms of progress, development in the country, Eastern Cape is the least developed. So it's falling behind, and the funny thing is, this little piece of land has produced so many great leaders for this country. So many great people have come from Eastern Cape. But we leave Eastern Cape and we obviously impact the economies of where we work and where we are. And we still leave it in its poverty that it's in. And nothing happens back there. So to me, it was more as in
giving back to where
I come from. It's where they say charity begins at home. It's easier to do something for the people that you come from, that you're part of. I'm like, it can't be. It just cannot be the same place, you know? I remember back in the days of Transkei, I'm not saying they were better, but in terms of where we were concentrated, where we were living, we used to have 5 graduation invitations every May in my family. Minimum 5 of these invitations. Education was the way to be. It was the thing to do. It was, it was what you just had. The rumor at funerals was, how many degrees did he have? People wanted to know how many degrees, who are we bearing here? How many degrees does he have? It was just the way to be, And what happened to that? What happened to that
education
vibe?
was esteemed so highly.
Yes. So what happened to that vibe? Where did it go? Now, if it's bad, it's in Eastern Cape. If it's hungry, it's in Eastern Cape. If it's not developed, it's in Eastern Cape. So that can't be our legacy.
When you look at, I talked about how much changes happen in this short period of time. When you look at where you are going, what is it that you want to see about the Eastern Cape?
To just get into the leadership position. It sounds competitive. To be very honest with you, for me, I just want the level of education to come up. To just come up. The more equal the education without making it cheap. Because that I've got issues with as well. We cannot, to push as many kids to pass by making the exam easier is not helping them. Are you with me? It is not helping them. We're not preparing them for the world at all. So for me, if the Eastern Cape people can just rise, really just rise, because they are very energetic people, but they can be lazy. But they are very energetic people and well-gifted people. If they can just rise above their circumstances, make a difference, invest into what they have. They've got fields and fields of rich land that they could plant, and just invest into what they have. Groom up the place. Don't be, the sorry child all the time, even if there are resources. It's different times. There are no excuses anymore, Hannah. Really, there are just no excuses anymore. So if the information reaches you, take the baton and run with it. Even if one of them one day maybe they may be watching this video, I don't care. They can start as many Masiqaqambe as they want. This is not patented. It's not business. You can never have too much good work. Do you get what I mean? Run with it. Run with it where you are. Do what you can where you are. I don't care even if you tutor math to the local class. Do what you can where you are. You don't always need money to do something. It helps. It certainly enables a lot of things. But you don't wait for it. What have you got? Are you gifted in motivating kids? Are you gifted in teaching? Teaching can be a natural gift for some people. What have you got that you can give that will not cost you anything except your time? Give it. Give it. Do something. Do your part.
Well, you have me very emotional. Before I start bawling, I just want to thank you so much. I really thank you so much for your time. I know.
Thank you for talking.
I don't think right now I know a busier person than you. Just had a baby, doing your MBA, working full time, doing MasQ on the side, but it's taking up so much of your time. But thank you so much, Elia. This has been a really fantastic conversation.
Thank you very much for making it happen. Thank you for your time. You see, you're doing your part already. You're doing what you can with what you have, and it's truly commendable. Truly commendable.
Thank you so much.